This is channel Xianxia Audio. Please support me a subscription. Chapter 11. Entering Windgaze City. Zhuo Fan understood her and quickly said, "Now that we no longer have Steward's son breathing down our necks, what does young Miss intend to do next?" We were planning on seeking shelter at Kai Manor." Captain Peng spoke before she could. This captain of the guards no longer treated Zhuo Fan as a common servant, but someone of equal status. "You should know that Kai clan's young master has a marriage agreement with young Miss." Windgaze City's Kai clan? Zhuo Fan rubbed his chin, nodding. According to this body's memories, Kai clan was the best clan in the Windgaze City, of the same power as Luo clan. If he could hand over the Luo siblings to them, then the grudge would be settled and his heart demon lightened. Maybe it could even be dispelled. Zhuo Fan nodded at this thought. "Alright, let's go to the Kai clan." But not before he took one last look at Blackwind Mountain, mumbling, "I'll be back." At the same time, in a dark cave atop Blackwind Mountain, a malevolent youth was on a large seat. His eyes were filled with cruelty as they flicked to his subordinate. "Any news of Steward's son?" Reporting to young Lord. Steward's son said he'd soon have the martial art. The bandit was shaking like a leaf, fearing to even meet the youth's eyes. "Ha ha ha. Withdraw." "Yes." The bandit wiped the sweat from his head, not lingering one moment more if he could help it, from fear of being eaten. The youth rose and moved behind the cover placed at the back of his seat. An old man laid there, glaring with fury at him. His lips trembled but no words came out. The youth patted the man's hand with a smile. "Master, be at ease. Your friend left first and is waiting for you. Once returning Dragon Palm arrives, I will reunite you two old friends." The old man's eyes were bloodshot at this, as if wanting to eat him alive. Despite the constant trembling, he could do nothing else. In response, the youth's savage and vicious laughter echoed throughout the cave. Windgaze City was the largest city in 100 miles and a 10-day journey from the Luo clan. From fear of other bandits pursuing them, Zhuo Fan and the others sped up and reached it in 5. Once inside, the bustling of the city assaulted them while also bringing some comfort. All the tension accumulated over these past days seemed to seep from them. Now that she was finally around other people, Luo Yuncheng's strained face finally revealed a smile. "Yunhai, look there." Pulling his hand, she pointed at a juggling stall. Captain Peng was happy to know the fall of the young Miss clan didn't put a damper on her spirits. "Brother Zhuo Fan, I seem to recall you never came to Windgaze City." Zhuo Fan just nodded. Captain Peng was stunned by that. Windgaze City's bustle was famous around these parts. He recalled the first time he came here and was so excited he couldn't sleep for 3 nights. Why was it that a homegrown kid who never saw the flourishing city didn't even flinch? Of course, how could he know? In Zhuo Fan's eyes, this place was no different than a village. "Old Peng, is Kai clan far from here?" Sharing hardships brought them closer and even started calling each other brothers. Luo Yunchang spoke before Captain Peng could. "We don't need to go so quickly. Yunhai and I must make an official visit first. Then I will come see you. Stay at a tavern in the meantime." "So annoying," frowned Zhuo Fan. With a bitter smile, Captain Peng just shrugged. "Can't be helped. There's no one rushing us now. If we go there now, they will laugh at us for not showing propriety." "Fine, you go first." Zhuo Fan sighed, but nodded. As long as the siblings were safe and he gained his freedom, waiting for a bit more wouldn't hurt. After 5 days of silence, someone couldn't restrain his temper and began running his mouth. "Humph, stinky slave. Windgaze City is my sister's domain. Just you wait, see how I'll deal with you." Luo Yunhai crossed his arms and flared his nostrils, becoming the same old impertinent young master from before. Bam! He didn't get to enjoy it though. As Zhuo Fan delivered a healthy kick to his rear, he flew a meter and landed on his face. "No need to wait, let's settle this now." Luo Yunchang rushed to help her brother and glared at Zhuo Fan. "Why do you always pick on a child? It's your brother who needs a spanking." Zhuo Fan shot her a look then waved. "Go already. After you settle in, if you still look at me with such discontent, I will not hesitate to leave you." Luo Yunchang snorted and left while hugging her brother. Luo Yunhai rested his head on her shoulder, face red as if choking but not daring to make a peep. Even a child like him understood the two siblings had no power in the forest. and so suffered at the hands of that despicable and dastardly servant. But now that they were in Windgaze City, his sister's turf, it didn't seem to make much difference. Why am I getting beaten by that damn slave again? Does this slave not fear even heaven and earth? Luo Yunhai never saw anyone like him in the Luo clan. Captain Peng watched this unfold with shock to say the least, as his eyes were close to popping. Not even he knew Zhuo Fan was so daring and impertinent that he'd beat up the young master right in front of young Miss. Yet she did not make a complaint nor retaliate. Young Miss doted on her brother, never once being harsh with him. Yet Zhuo Fan trampled over young master with no regard to her with uncanny ease and skill. Now he understood why young master looked at Zhuo Fan like a mouse eyeing a cat. Wiping the sweat off his forehead, Captain Peng said, "Brother Zhuo Fan, young master is your lord. If not out of respect for the young miss, do it out of respect for her husband. How could you kick him?" Zhuo Fan laughed then shrugged. No one was a lord in his eyes. Everything he did was to remove the heart demon. Chapter 12. Odd Girl. They won't come back for a while. Let's stroll around the city. Zhuo Fan turned around and walked away. Captain Peng knew he didn't take his words to heart and sighed as he followed. They were soon in the market area. This was where rogue cultivators sold their wares, to exchange items or other cultivating materials. With Zhuo Fan's experience, he should be able to find goods which others overlooked. The two visited many stalls, and many times, Captain Peng wanted to put his hands in his pocket, but when he saw Zhuo Fan walking away with a dull look, he followed suit. Perhaps he wasn't aware, but the Grand Captain of the Guard was reduced to following Zhuo Fan at every step. Since when did the world overflow with overlooked treasures? Let's just go. Zhuo Fan scoured the market but nothing caught his eye. It was then he heard a ruckus. He went to see a stall owner and a red-faced girl in a heated dispute. He led Captain Peng through the crowd's center and saw the girl's appearance. She wore white clothes, with fine eyebrows like a crescent moon, and looked calm and gentle. Even when yelled at, she never lost her smile, as if she never got angry. She persevered despite opposition. This black jade is fake. How is it fake? This is the purest black jade. One that if left in the sun for a day, will still feel cool to the touch. If worn as a pendant, cultivation will be much easier. The man spat non-stop about how pure it was. Young miss, do you understand what I'm saying? She shook her head, but her smile never faltered. I do not know much about black jade, but I have seen one, so I can tell this one's a fake. Ha ha ha, you saw it once and dare to say you find this one fake? Did you hear, everyone? Has there ever been such an absurd situation in the world? It has, and I know I'm right. If we talk about price, the worst black jade is worth 10 spirit stones while the best 100. Yet yours is only 3 spirit stones. Get out of here. Enough with your rubbish. Little girl, don't ruin my business. How could you possibly know of its value? The girl smiled while staring at the man. He felt a rage burning inside, but had nowhere to vent. As the saying goes, you can't strike one who only smiled. The girl kept denying the black jade's price without a solid reason. If it was any other person, he would have slapped them silly. But her smile left him powerless to even lift his hand. That black jade is indeed fake. A man's voice echoed out and the crowd saw Zhuo Fan watching the girl with a smile. Young Miss eyes are true, but cannot explain where the fault lies. As everyone knows, reality is a matter of perception. What's real can be fake and what's fake can be real. The girl was taken aback but nodded while scrutinizing him. Zhuo Fan turned to the crowd. Everyone, is it possible to prepare a few things? Sulfur, clover. He enumerated some of the most common things, which some people had already bought. Under everyone's eyes, Zhuo Fan threw them in water, stirred, and said to the stall owner, "Please place the black jade inside." "Humph, you're just washing it." He was also confident, even as he placed it inside. But once it entered, the water began to bubble and turn red. It even released a faint hint of blood energy. How can it be? The stall owner was shocked. The girl also watched wide-eyed and astonished. Ha ha ha, no need to be so surprised. This black jade was just an imitation that will show its real color once introduced to water. Zhuo Fan took the black jade and gave it to the owner. Now you should know this lady was right. That bastard lied to me. He sold it to me for 20 spirit stones. The stall owner gnashed his teeth. This black jade is only worth 3 spirit stones. The girl declared her assessment, then smiled to Zhuo Fan. Mr. has good eyes. I knew it was fake, but couldn't pinpoint the difference. I thanked Mr. for his intervention. It was nothing. I have also seen this once. Zhuo Fan smiled. Young miss, won't you buy it? It's just 3 stones now. No need. I only wanted to inform others of the stone's real price. She chuckled and left, watching her figure fading into the crowd. Captain Peng sighed next to Zhuo Fan. What an odd girl. Zhuo Fan, on the other hand, breathed out in relief as he muttered. That girl's eyes are sharp and sinister. It's a good thing she is still inexperienced, or she would have taken the treasure without hesitation. He then turned to the black jade, eyes shining with excitement, but the stall owner was sighing as he packed his things. Ready to go home. Chapter 13. Blood Spirit. Never thought I'd make a mistake. The stall owner was carrying his bag while walking along a remote alley. He didn't talk, just sighed as he walked. But then a voice came from behind. Owner, please wait. He stopped with a start and looked to see Zhuo Fan walking over. You're the one from before? He recognized Zhuo Fan. It was he who showed everyone that his black jade was fake. Is there something you need? Ha ha ha. Owner, I like your black jade and will pay 10 spirit stones for it. Zhuo Fan laughed, taking glances at the man's bag. After some muttering, the owner looked oddly at Zhuo Fan. Mister, you know this stone is fake, so why pay 10 spirit stones? The lady said it was worth 3. Shaking his head, Zhuo Fan added, even if it is fake, it can still pass off for the real thing. I might be able to sell it as a black jade. Oh, I see. You want to trick others into buying it. The owner nodded in understanding, then scanned around. Since this is the case, things are different now. It is worth much more than just 10 spirit stones. How much do you want then? Zhuo Fan squinted with murderous intent. At least 50. The owner showed his own sneaky side. If not, I'll just find my own target and sell it at 100. Thanks to Zhuo Fan's reminder, the owner realized how rare were people who could tell the real black jade from fake. He could sell the fake himself and earn a fortune. Are you buying, or do I have to look elsewhere? Seeing Zhuo Fan's expression, the owner knew he didn't have that many spirit stones on him. But it was fine since he could sell it himself and dupe another in the process. He walked away. Wait. The moment he took the first step, a hand grabbed his shoulder like an iron claw, eliciting a shout of pain from the owner. Owner, don't be too greedy, Zhuo Fan warned. Humph, so what if I am? The black jade is mine and I'll sell it at whatever price I want. His voice choked as a black yuan qi entered his body. After his body turned black, a breeze scattered his dust into the wind. Releasing his breath, Zhuo Fan felt his yuan qi grow a bit. He was now a first-layered qi condensation expert. The 7th-layer foundation establishment owner hardly helped in increasing his power. He just wanted to trade, but the owner had to be ruthless and force his hand. Zhuo Fan took the black jade and returned to the tavern. He wasn't addicted to killing, but some people were addicted to courting death. Zhuo Fan met with Captain Peng at the tavern and threw him a pouch. Old Peng, here. Captain Peng didn't understand. The 10 spirit stones are all here? Didn't you buy it? Zhuo Fan left Captain Peng at the tavern after borrowing 10 spirit stones, saying he found something that caught his eye. Yet the same spirit stones were left in the bag, untouched. Oh, that old man was so nice he just gave it to me. Zhuo Fan dodged. Also, Old Peng, guard my door and don't let anyone come in. With that, he closed the door to his room. Captain Peng found it strange, but since they were like brothers now, he helped him out. As such, he sat before Zhuo Fan's door as a guard. Zhuo Fan was clear as to what happened beyond his door and nodded. Pleased, he lucked out in finding such a loyal man. Next, he settled the black jade on the table and released his dark yuan qi. Bam! The stone's exterior cracked and fell, revealing a blood-red light. It was no longer a black jade but a bloody one. Moreover, it gave the impression of a heart as it flashed on and off like heartbeats. I knew it. It's the blood spirit. Zhuo Fan swallowed, his face working hard to restrain the obvious delight in his voice. The blood spirit stems from any stone. Its only requirement of formation is to be bathed in the blood of millions of people, absorbing the essence of the sun and moon for thousands of years. It would then take form. It was a demonic cultivator treasure. Rarest of treasures. A cultivator would use the blood spirit to form a blood infant. In battle, he could send the blood infant to absorb the opponent's blood essence then kill him. And the blood infant could grow along with the cultivator. Once Zhuo Fan grew strong enough, even a sovereign wouldn't dare mess with it. According to the Nine Serenities Secret Records, there was once an ancient demonic cultivator expert, Patriarch Blood Demon, that trained the blood infant to the saint stage. Even the 10 ancient sovereigns were unwilling to make an enemy out of him. Patriarch Blood Demon felt invincible and went to challenge Nine Serenities Sovereign for the title of the strongest demonic cultivator. It was a drawn-out battle, with the Nine Serenities Sovereign heavily wounded at the end, barely overcoming Patriarch Blood Demon by half a move. However, the Nine Serenities Sovereign obtained Patriarch Blood Demon's secret method to raise the blood infant, improved it, and added it to the demon transformation art. The Nine Serenities Sovereign wanted to train the blood infant too, but never got the chance. Never did he. Zhuo Fan, the demonic emperor, think he'd have such a stroke of luck after rebirthing to train the blood infant. If he had it in his past life, a saint would have been nothing. That thought made him eager to slash his wrist and pour his blood onto the blood jade. Chapter 14. Refining the blood infant. Plop, plop. Just like how an infant breathed, each drop of blood landed on the stone and disappeared the next instant. The stone started to throb and the sensation only grew stronger with each drop of blood. Zhuo Fan smiled viciously and pushed out more blood for the jade. If he wanted to refine the blood infant, he needed to bathe it in his blood until the blood spirit synchronized both their breathing and heartbeat. The seconds trickled by as Zhuo Fan's blood thinned, but the blood spirit was never sated, devouring everything he gave. Zhuo Fan licked his dried lips, growing paler as his mind was clouded. He knew the loss of blood was too great, but he'd come too far now. There was only one chance to refine the blood infant. If he stopped, it'd be like throwing a child away. It would think Zhuo Fan abandoned it and would never approve of him ever again. This was why there was no going back once Zhuo Fan started the process. After an hour, Zhuo Fan felt the world spinning. If he dared keep this up, it would endanger his life. If his life came to an end, the blood spirit would lose its meaning. Just as he was considering abandoning the process, an indescribable feeling arose in his heart. Zhuo Fan was stunned, then overjoyed. His mind and the blood spirit were now connected. He held onto the bloodstone and activated the demon transformation art. Black yuan qi enveloped the stone and strands of blood left it to enter Zhuo Fan. Finally, the bloodstone shattered with a loud sound and a red glow shot for his body. Zhuo Fan checked in glee and saw the red palm-sized infant resting in his dantian. Sensing his gaze, the infant opened his eyes then went to sleep. This is the blood infant. After a moment of stupefaction, he jumped in joy. He never thought it would be so easy to refine the blood infant. Even though he succeeded, he had lost too much blood. When he stood up, his legs went soft and hit the ground. But even that couldn't wipe the grin off his face. Now that I have the blood infant, the next step is to settle on a martial art to learn. Blood palm, a mid-mortal ranked martial art. The palm would rain havoc to one's blood and reverse its flow. Thanks to also having the blood infant, it was now savage enough to even damage one's blood essence. Despite being a mere mid-mortal ranked, its power was as strong as a high mortal ranked martial art. It might even surpass it. 10 days later, the door opened with a creak and Zhuo Fan came out grinning. Captain Peng rose to his feet and rubbed his eyes. Why did you take so long? Kai Manor already sent someone over. Seeing the dead tired old Peng, Zhuo Fan smiled. Old Peng, thank you for your hard work. What hard work between brothers? But we cannot let young miss and young master wait for too long. You're not curious about what I've been doing the past 10 days? That is your business. You'll tell me when you want to. Captain Peng waved indifferently, pulling Zhuo Fan with haste towards Kai Manor. Zhuo Fan was touched seeing this rough man. Despite not knowing each other for long, old Peng had complete trust in him. This had never happened for all his life as a demonic emperor. They arrived an hour later before a majestic gate with a sign inscribed in golden letters. Kai Manor. Just when they were about to enter, the guards stopped them. Stop. Who are you to dare enter Kai Manor? Captain Peng clasped his hand. Ha ha ha. I am Luo clan's captain of the guard, Peng Yu. And this is Luo clan's steward, Zhuo Fan. My young miss and young master are guests in your home. Zhuo Fan was taken aback. Since when did he become the Luo clan steward? Peng Yu knew what he was thinking and whispered. 8 days ago, Kai clan's men came to say you are Luo clan's steward. Young miss must have done it. Congratulations, brother Zhou. He. Shaking his head out of helplessness. Zhuo Fan let out a bitter smile. He didn't want to be some steward, but to entrust the safety of the siblings to the Kai clan and free himself of the heart demon. How could the grand demonic emperor be a puny clan steward? But just as how he looked down on the Luo clan, so did the guards of the Kai manor. The 2 guards shot a glance filled with contempt. Humph. Another 2 showed up to cheat their way to a free meal. Hey, what did you say? Captain Peng was pissed and wanted to argue. But Zhuo Fan stopped him. They walked inside. Captain Peng didn't understand. Why did you stop me? Zhuo Fan only had a grave expression. These 2 servers' attitude was a reflection of their lords. Nothing good would come out of talking to them. The 2 needed to find Luo Yunchang and understand what was happening. The Kai manor might not be such a good place to place his trust in. After some inquiry, they arrived at the siblings' dwelling. Seeing the wretched place they lived in, even lower than the tavern rooms, Captain Peng cursed. Why is the Kai clan treating young miss and young master like this? They're even less than guests. Not just that, they don't even consider them humans. Zhuo Fan felt anger seething inside. If not because of the siblings' injustice, then because of wasting his time and energy. Let's go in. Zhuo Fan rushed next to Captain Peng, who was in a hurry to open the door. Inside, they saw Luo Yunhai sitting on the bed crestfallen. Without his usual enthusiasm, the place was crude, with just a broken chair and a broken table. Captain Peng's eyes teared up. Young master, don't be sad. Kid, where's your sister? Zhuo Fan was blunt, with no sympathy. It seemed Zhuo Fan's beating had cast a shadow on his heart. The lifeless Luo Yunhai shivered and woke up. Luo Yunhai stammered at the raging Zhuo Fan. Sister went to look for him, young Master Kai, to help rebuild the Cloud Manor. Asking for help in this situation is asking for humiliation. Let's go look for your sister. Zhuo Fan dragged Luo Yunhai off the bed, his attitude worse than ever. Captain Peng was in a panic, wanting to stop Zhuo Fan from being so rude to his master. But Zhuo Fan's mood seemed to put him off, and all the courage left him. As such, Luo Yunhai was shaking in fear as he led them. Captain Peng caught up to them, thinking, just who is the lord here? Chapter 15. Annulled Marriage. Next to a clear stream, an elegant man was frolicking with a charming lady in red. They chased each other around the pond, laughing all the while in this peaceful place. Luo Yunchang felt only sorrow as she watched the flirting couple. But for the good of the clan, she braced herself and stepped forward. Brother shouting. The mood of the man turned sour as he glared at her. Luo Yunchang, I thought I made myself clear. From now on, I have nothing more to do with you. My eyes are only for Yufei. Yeah, now get lost. Brother shouting doesn't love you anymore. The lady in red sneered at her. Biting her lip, Luo Yunchang's eyes misted over. At the time when Luo and Kai clans were on good terms, the parents of both families arranged their marriage. She and Kai shouting grew up together and swore their love for each other, to never abandon the other. This was why the first person she thought of was her fiancé when she needed help. Yet, reality was cruel. Ever since they came here, she and her brother kept suffering while Kai shouting had the arrogant and insufferable Sun clan's young miss, Sun Yufei, next to him. She knew all hope of marrying into the Kai clan was lost. But for the sake of rebuilding her clan, she hoped to stir clan head Kai's amiable emotions that the 2 clans shared in the past so he would lend a helping hand. Yet clan head Kai Rong was cold and unfeeling to their plight. Not moving an inch, the siblings stayed here for 10 days, all in hope of gaining some assistance. But since Kai Rong ignored her, she could only turn to Kai shouting. Brother shouting, I don't ask for you to go through with the engagement, and only hope you can persuade your father, for old time's sake, and help the Luo clan. Quote, it has nothing to do with me. Talk with dad. Kai shouting waved his sleeve coldly. Luo Yunchang kneeled with tears streaming down her cheeks. Brother shouting, "If you don't agree, I will kneel here until I die." Taking a long look at her, Kai shouting frowned and was plagued by hesitation. But then Sun Yufei jumped between them and slapped Luo Yunchang. The blow through her back and blood trickled from her mouth. "Humph! Bitch! Kai shouting is mine. Stay away from him." Sun Yufei's phoenix eyes glared and raved. She turned to Kai shouting and said harshly, "You stay away from her too. If I find there's still something left between you, I will leave you." As if waking up, he nodded and swore, "Yufei, relax. My heart is yours. Other girls are dirt compared to you." Kai shouting's eyes showed his sincere feelings, watching her like a love-struck puppy. Sun Yufei nodded pleased. As Luo Yunchang's face turned ashen, she knew her last hope had faded away. Whoosh! A shadow flashed by and two slaps echoed. Sun Yufei and Kai shouting were still confused about what happened, when a red handprint appeared on their faces. Zhuo Fan stood in front of Luo Yunchang as he stared at them. "A damn illicit couple dares to ruin my affairs? Who are you?" Sun Yufei and Kai shouting woke up with a start. They were geniuses of Windgaze City, qi condensation experts, and peerless in their generation. Yet here was Zhuo Fan, of similar age yet faster than even them. They got slapped before they could react. Is it possible for such an individual to exist in this world? As the scene played out, only Captain Peng and Luo Yunhai came to Luo Yunchang's help. Seeing the thin figure in front, Captain Peng was even more shocked, although he was an expert in the fourth layer of qi condensation. While Kai shouting was in the third, a level beneath him. They had different upbringings, and if they clashed, he might even lose. Yet such arrogant geniuses were slapped by Zhuo Fan. Thinking about the power he displayed in the forest, Captain Peng couldn't help but wonder how he got so strong in such a short span of time. Ignoring the two and the shocked Captain Peng, Zhuo Fan turned to the crying and pitiful Luo Yunchang and felt pain in his heart. Wretched heart demon. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth. With his demonic emperor disposition, he could look beyond the world's entire sufferings. How could a girl's humiliation ever cause him pain? He could only attribute it to this body's former soul, who felt anger for his master. It looks like I'll be stuck with the Luo clan for some time." Zhuo Fan sighed inside as he wiped Luo Yunchang's tears. "Let's go." Luo Yunchang nodded. There was no point in staying here. She carried the bitter Luo Yunhai and walked with Captain Peng's help. "Humph! Don't think you can run after hitting us." Sun Yufei shrieked as she barred their way. Kai shouting chimed in, "Luo Yunchang, you think this is a place you can come and go as you please?" Luo Yunchang was filled with grief and balled her fists. She regretted ever coming here for help. Facing this overbearing couple in their home, she could only rein in her anger. If she were alone, she would have rather fought them for her honor. But she still had her brother. If he died, she would be too ashamed to meet her parents in the underworld river. What do you want?" Luo Yunchang's voice trembled. "Humph. Simple. Kneel and kowtow 3 times. Sun Yufei smiled viciously and pointed at Zhuo Fan. Especially him. Clenching his teeth, Captain Peng's eyes went red, wanting nothing more than to beat them senseless. This was too humiliating. Luo Yunchang hesitated, then closed her eyes as her knees bent. "Kneel, all of you." They could all hear her faint mournful voice. Sun Yufei stuck out her chin with arrogance and smiled with pride. Bam! Before they kneeled, Sun Yufei and Kai shouting took the initiative to kneel first with a cry. Rather than saying they kneeled, it was better to say their knees were forcibly smacked into the pavement. Chapter 16. Tomorrow, you'll be beneath me. Cracks spread like spiderwebs on the pavement. If they weren't qi condensation experts, their knees would be crushed. Unable to walk again, the two grimaced as they looked up to see Zhuo Fan standing before them. "You again." The couple knew Zhuo Fan was the only one among the group who had the power to attack them out of the blue. "Even if you beg on your knees now, I won't ever let you go." Sun Yufei glared scornfully at Zhuo Fan, howling with rage. "Paw, paw." 2 hits echoed and Zhuo Fan kicked them without hesitation. "You want me to kneel? You think too highly of yourselves." Sun Yufei and Kai shouting were dumbfounded, even forgetting the pain from the kick. Slapping them to help Luo Yunchang out of a predicament was something they could understand. To make amends, they were ordered to kneel. Yet, This steward still had the guts to strike them. Was he not afraid they would never be allowed to leave Kai Manor alive? Captain Peng was enraged by the two's act, but he looked at it from a different perspective and felt it was better to endure. Or the Luo clan would be perishing here. Luo Yunchang smiled dejectedly. Others didn't understand Zhuo Fan, while she gained first-hand knowledge of his violent character in the forest. He never once acted like a servant. He just did whatever he wanted. She just could not cope with the fact their Luo clan had such a servant. Yet, Luo Yunhai's attitude changed completely. He now looked at Zhuo Fan with worship and adoration. This damnable slave's nerve that always bullied him wasn't limited to picking on his masters, but even on others. He just didn't know fear. In that instant, the image of the damnable slave turned into an almighty hero coming to rescue the Luo clan. Who dares to act impertinently in the Kai clan's domain? A man's rebuke echoed as he appeared before them. Luo Yuncheng's face dropped. She pulled her brother so close that even he could feel her anxiety. Kai Xiaoting was overjoyed. "Dad, you're here. He is looking for trouble with our Kai clan." Knowing clan head Kai Rong had come, Zhuo Fan eyed him more carefully. Kai Rong looked to be in his 50s, tall and sturdy, with a powerful aura emanating from him. "Eighth layer of bone tempering," smiled Zhuo Fan. Kai Rong's eyebrows jumped as shock flashed over his face. He never thought it possible for a youth to see through his cultivation. "Good eyes," patronized Kai Rong. "May I ask who you are?" "Luo clan steward, Zhuo Fan." Kai Rong was startled and observed him closely. He heard from Luo Yunchang that Luo clan had a new steward, since the old one turned traitor. But he didn't think it'd be one as young as Zhuo Fan. And he also gave off a strange energy. If it were any other time, a fox like him would never mess with an unknown variable like Zhuo Fan. Such a pity there was now a power in this city he could afford to offend even less. "Uncle Kai, you must bring justice to us victims." Sun Yufei revealed the red print on her face while glaring at Zhuo Fan. Kai Rong understood the situation in an instant. He placated her. "Don't worry, Uncle Kai is here now." He then turned solemn as he looked at Luo Yunchang. "Yunchang, I took you, siblings, out of kindness. It is fine if you do not reciprocate. But why look for trouble?" Luo Yunchang shuddered, lost for words. Zhuo Fan stepped forward with a smile. "You even bully a lady at your age. Clan head Kai, I needn't say anything more. Moreover, stop preaching kindness. No need to mince words. You did it out of benefit, or you wouldn't have annulled the marriage." Quote, "Alright, since you want us to be hostile, I won't be lenient." Kai Rong's face changed. "Today, I will have to settle this for Yufei. You need only handle my palm attack. I won't take advantage of you and only use 2/10. Let life and death be decided like this." 2/10? As his pupils shrunk, Captain Peng shouted, "Coming from you, it's even stronger than a 9th layer qi condensation expert's all-out attack. You clearly want us dead. Uncle Kai, I beg you. Yunhai is still a child. He is innocent," Yunchang implored. But Kai Rong snorted, then smiled at Sun Yufei. "Alright, I'll go first." Zhuo Fan's mouth perked up. Whoosh! A great red palm appeared in the air. Kai Rong didn't expect for Zhuo Fan to attack first and turned serious as he sent his own palm attack. At contact, the blood palm scattered and Zhuo Fan fell back 10 steps, yet was unharmed. A second layer qi condensation can withstand 2/10 of my power. Kai Rong's heart was in shock. "But your survival all came down to luck." "Ha ha ha. The only reason I'm still alive is because I don't believe in luck." And he pointed at Kai Rong's hand with a grin. "But power." Kai Rong's eyes squinted. His hand was bleeding from the previous exchange. "How could this be? He is just a second layer qi condensation cultivator while I am an 8th layer bone tempering cultivator. That's a difference of more than a whole stage." Furthermore, followed Zhuo Fan, "You really think that was 2/10? That wasn't even a 10th. Kai Rong began to recall what transpired. Despite the abruptness of it all, he indeed wanted to release 2/10. But when he released the palm, his blood fell in disorder and the result was obvious to all. "Also, take a look at your son." Zhuo Fan pointed at Kai shouting. Kai Rong saw his son spit a mouthful of blood. "Dad, what's happening?" Kai shouting panicked. He wasn't wounded yet he puked blood. "Zhuo Fan, what the hell did you do?" Kai Rong roared. Zhuo Fan replied with a sneer. I only wanted to tell clan head Kai I can take your son's life anytime. Please take it into consideration. As Kai Rong was hesitating, Zhuo Fan pointed again, eliciting another mouthful of blood from Kai, shouting, All right, I believe you. Kai Rong wiped his brow of sweat as he spoke in a shaky voice. He didn't know what trick he pulled on his son, but Zhuo Fan was prepared for his intervention. He was now regretting, if he knew the Luo clan had such a shrewd and decisive steward, he wouldn't have taken things this far. Then, I will bid you farewell here. Clan head Kai. Zhuo Fan sneered as he cupped his hands, then pulled Luo Yunchang and walked away. Zhuo Fan laughed all the while. Today you love to bully me. Tomorrow you'll be beneath me. Uncle Kai, are you letting him go? Sun Yufei asked with resentment. Sighing helplessly, Kai Rong muttered as he watched Zhuo Fan leave. Instead of offering shelter, I invited an enemy. Shaking his head, he helped Kai shouting walk inside. After a few steps, his eyes flashed as he turned to Sun Yufei. Yufei, we need to end Zhuo Fan as soon as possible. He will endanger your Sun clan. Humph, you don't dare to attack him because of your son. My Sun clan isn't afraid. I will let him have a taste of what it means to offend the 7 noble houses. Sun Yufei spoke with hatred. Chapter 17, Veiled Dragon Pavilion. As the three left Kai Manor, Captain Peng and Luo Yunchang were trembling and even looked back now and then for fear of Kai Rong having changed his mind. Only Zhuo Fan was calm, yet a bit of rage still existed in his heart. Young miss, is there anywhere else we can go? Zhuo Fan asked in a cold tone. Her eyes turned misty as she shook her head. Captain Peng also sighed in sorrow. Taking a deep breath, Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth and promised himself to run the Kai clan into the ground one day. He was just a step away from providing a safe haven for the Luo siblings. Yet Kai clan's father and son ruined it all. If the day came that the Kai clan was ruined because they offended Zhuo Fan, Kai Rong would be twisting inside with regret. But that was the future. Now, Zhuo Fan was pissed. His hopes were dashed and he had to spend more time to look after the siblings. Zhuo Fan mumbled for a while, then said, Young miss, do you know what are the 7 noble houses? What? Where did you hear that from? Luo Yunchang was in a panic as she watched Zhuo Fan. It was as if he knew a heavenly secret. But recalling the fantastic events that happened the past days, she relaxed. Captain Peng also looked oddly at Luo Yunchang. This was the first time he heard of them. Pursing her lips for a long time, Luo Yunchang finally spoke in a solemn tone. Since we lived in Cloud Manor and had no dealings with them, not knowing them is normal. But we are now wandering outside. If you ever meet someone from the 7 noble houses, you must avoid him, even if it's a dog. Captain Peng was shocked. This was his first time hearing Luo Yunchang speaking in such a heavy tone, as if she was talking about horrifying people. Yet, a proud girl like her, even if from a fallen clan, did not speak near as highly about the Kai clan. The warning seemed to go right past Zhuo Fan as he retained his calm. Be it Luo clan or Kai clan, regardless of how strong they are only mortal clans. But in Tianyu Empire, there are 7 officials who earned the imperial family's approval and can stand next to the emperor. Their power and territory are above all mortal clans. Fighting them is like going against the empire. What? This world has clans that can stand next to the imperial family? Captain Peng's face contorted in fear. Luo Yunchang nodded with extreme seriousness. Every clan knows these 7 families must not be touched. I am telling you this so that you all must remember to be careful. Is the Sun clan one of them? Interrupted Zhuo Fan. Stunned for a second, Luo Yunchang shook her head. Why do you ask? Yeah, brother Zhou, if she was of the 7 houses, then young miss would have stopped you from smacking her. Captain Peng snickered. Since Luo Yunchang didn't stop him, then she agreed in silence. As if she was found out, Luo Yunchang reddened and glared at him. In fact, seeing Sun Yufei slapped was the most refreshing event for Luo Yunchang. Since Captain Peng could tell how glad the girl was, how could Zhuo Fan not? But Zhuo Fan's vision was much further. Even if they had a falling out with the Sun clan, he had to understand the other's background. Then is the Sun clan part of the 7 houses? What made you come to that conclusion? Luo Yunchang was feeling nervous for some reason. Her only hope right now was that Zhuo Fan was joking around to scare her. But his next words were spoken with a straight face. That girl raved how she'll let us see the might of the 7 noble houses. How can this be? Did we offend 7 noble houses people? Luo Yunchang paled and her mind blanked, watching Zhuo Fan with empty eyes. Captain Peng was even worse. His heart froze up. At this moment, the world seemed to have vanished, making way for silence. Zhuo Fan, quick, we need to apologize to young Miss Sun. Luo Yunchang pulled him to Kai Manor. But Zhuo Fan was stuck like a rock. If we go, we'll die, Zhuo Fan said coldly. Luo Yunchang froze and her eyes glazed with helplessness. Zhuo Fan's words were ear-piercing, but they all spoke of the harsh truth. If offending the 7 noble houses was so easily settled, no one would have regarded them with such fear. Brother Zhou, what do we do? They were all surprised to find Luo Yunhai speaking as he gazed at Zhuo Fan with unshakable faith. Not even Zhuo Fan foresaw it. A kid that everyone overlooked was now watching him with such big and innocent eyes. Wasn't I a stinkin' slave? Squinted Zhuo Fan. Big bro Zhou, we, brother and sister, are grateful for this new chance at life. You're our greatest benefactor, my dear brother-in-law. Please save us once again. Yunhai, don't talk nonsense. Luo Yunhai glared with a red face. Yet her eyes couldn't help sneaking a glance at Zhuo Fan. They were alive thanks to him. Despite being inferior in his own eyes, Zhuo Fan's abilities made others have a whole new level of respect for him. This was the reason why she appointed him as the clan's steward. For the rebuilding of the clan, men like him were needed. Zhuo Fan saw Luo Yunhai's imploring eyes and laughed inside. This kid is a clan's son after all. Haughty but also clever to see another's talent, how adorable. Moreover, helping the Luo clan was a given for him. Does Windgaze City have men from the 7 houses? Yes, the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, the #1 treasure appraising clan among the 7 houses. Its wealth knows no bounds. Then let's return to the tavern and go to Veiled Dragon Pavilion tomorrow. Zhuo Fan ruffled Luo Yunhai's head. What for? Luo Yunchang rushed to ask. Allies. Zhuo Fan's curt reply came. The others were stunned. Why would one of the 7 noble houses, the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, ally with a rundown clan? That was more of the wish of a hopeless loser. Chapter 18. Long Kui. A tens of meters tall ancient building stood in the eastern part of Windgaze City. Its size overwhelmed any from approaching to the point that not a single person dared get within 100 meters of it. 2 guards in golden garb stood at the gates. Their aura gave off the impression of veterans, of imperial bodyguards. Despite standing still, their eyes roamed everywhere, staring daggers at any who dared match their gaze. But in this place, 4 people suddenly appeared. Peak of chi condensation, Zhuo Fan muttered as he walked in front of the siblings and Captain Peng. While he had no problem facing such imposing guards, the 3 stiffened, to the point they almost forgot to walk. Stop! The guards barred Zhuo Fan's path. Veiled Dragon Pavilion is not a place for you to wander about. I ask that you send word of Cloud Manor Luo clan's young miss. Luo Yunchang, I have arrived to have something appraised. Zhuo Fan's eyes didn't even look at them. The 2 exchanged a look of surprise. Windgaze City didn't lack people who came here to see the appraiser. But all were fearful and fawned over them when talking. This was a first though. Meeting such a smug kid. We've never heard of you. Our appraiser can't meet with nobodies, spoke a guard harshly. Luo Yunchang lowered her head. One of the 7 noble houses, Veiled Dragon Pavilion, would never pay attention to an ant-like clan. They weren't even worthy to speak with them, not to mention become allies. Zhuo Fan, Luo Yunchang pulled Zhuo Fan. But before she could finish, he shook her off. That is the appraiser's concern to see us. Try and act as the servants you are. What did you say? The guards were outraged, releasing their full aura. The Luo clan members felt their breathing become heavier as they retreated back. Only Zhuo Fan stood in his place and roared. Is this how the 7 noble houses treats its guests? Humph, truly renowned. Stop. A girl in white came out to meet them. The guards bowed. Young miss, these people are looking for trouble. I heard what you said. And it is you who are in the wrong. All who come are guests. Make sure to show respect. The girl berated them in a cold tone, then smiled at Zhuo Fan. Mister, we meet again. It's you? Zhuo Fan and Captain Peng were startled. She was the one that quarreled with the stall owner. But things were different now. Zhuo Fan sneered inside. I didn't expect for young miss to be from the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Please forgive my lack of respect. The girl nodded with a smile. I am Long Kui, only a small appraiser here. I wonder why Mr. has come to us. To be honest, I am Luo clan steward, Zhuo Fan. Because a terrible misfortune plagues us, I accompanied my young miss to the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Tianyu Empire's #1 appraising noble house, to sell the clan's treasure. Eh? Eyes flashing, Long Kui smiled when she saw Luo Yunchang nodding, then turned back to Zhuo Fan. Then I will do my best to examine your treasure. Please, follow me. She showed them in, to the shock of the guards. Was that, young miss friend? No way. How can young miss have such a dirt poor friend? She must be doing it for the treasure. Once it fails to meet her expectations, they will be kicked out. Then, we will teach them a lesson they won't ever forget. Especially that rude Zhuo Fan. But what if the item is to her liking? That's impossible. Just look at them. How can these wretched people have anything that is worth more than black jade? Ha ha ha. The other also jeered, rubbing his hand in eagerness to vent all his energy. On the other side, Long Kui took them to a flourishing room and smiled once they were seated. I wonder what treasure did you bring? Please take it out. Zhuo Fan grinned. This girl thinks herself above others, but is quite shrewd as well. He was certain she knew exactly what went on at the entrance. But let the guards test them if they were worthy of her time. If they showed any sign of giving up, her current attitude would have been unyielding. Despite how cunning she was far too naive when up against the devilish Zhuo Fan. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan placed a scroll with countless images before her, which immediately caught her full attention. Taking it in her hands, Long Kui took careful and long looks at the contents. Luo Yunchang and Captain Peng were in a bit of a shock. This drawing was something Zhuo Fan made last night. When they saw it, they only had one thought. What is this thing? Yet from the looks of Long Kui's expression, it must be worth a fortune. Mr. Zhuo Fan, how much do you want? Long Kui placed the scroll back and watched Zhuo Fan with a hardened gaze. Young Miss Long is an appraiser and I saw your skill in the market. Please be the first to state a price. Zhuo Fan chuckled, biting her lip. Long Kui noticed from his eyes that this man was also knowledgeable. She couldn't swindle him. How does 20,000 spirit stones sound? What, 20,000? Luo Yunchang stood up in shock. If you'd take Cloud Manor's wealth when it was at its peak, you'd get 50,000. Yet Zhuo Fan messed around with a brush and came up with 20? Captain Peng was dumbstruck. Long Kui couldn't restrain her disdain for the two. Humph, I am a madam while you are a pack of stray cats. But when she saw the silent yet smiling Zhuo Fan, she turned serious. The true expert is this steward. Chapter 19. Godai Long Ju. 20,000. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan rubbed his chin, shaking his head as he reached for the scroll. Since young Miss Long isn't honest, there's no need to continue. Her body moved back and hugged the scroll, afraid Zhuo Fan might take it. Mr. Zhou, 20,000 isn't little for a first-grade array. And this is a drawing instead of a jade slip. This price of mine is fair. Ha ha ha. Young Miss Long, I might not be too learned, but I know when you try to cheat me. Give me the scroll. Zhuo Fan reached out but was in no rush to take it as he stared down at her. Tightening her grip on the drawing, Long Kui bit her lip and shouted, "Take it as my loss. 30,000. Young Miss Long still is not honest enough." Zhuo Fan shook his head in disappointment and leaned over to grab for the scroll. Long Kui curled backward, wanting to dodge Zhuo Fan's evil clutches. This drawing was indeed a first-grade array, and this wasn't the first time she saw one. Her original price was quite fair and she began with 20,000 because she knew she couldn't swindle the knowledgeable Zhuo Fan. But even so, with how many arrays there were out there, she didn't know them all. The #1 appraising noble house in the empire had many arrays in storage. Yet this was a rare chance for her to encounter one that was unlike any she saw before. As such, even if she would lose out, she would do all she could to have this array. A pity that the relentless Zhuo Fan stood in her way, unwilling to back down even half a step. As such, she turned to the ignored young miss of the Luo clan. Young Miss Luo, this drawing is 30,000 at most. Only the Veiled Dragon Pavilion has the wealth to buy such a drawing in the entire empire. You won't gain a better price elsewhere. She hesitated and glanced at Zhuo Fan. Long Kui knew she had an escape and pushed her advantage to entice her. Young Miss Luo, you and the Veiled Dragon Pavilion are making a great transaction and will become our honored guest. Our doors will forever be open to you. Honored guest? Luo Yunchang mumbled. Isn't this gaining a supporter? Her heart was overtaken with joy and turned to Zhuo Fan. What if? Not a word. Zhuo Fan roared and glared at her. This foolish woman was swayed in seconds. How could the Veiled Dragon Pavilion stick their heads out for some bullshit guests? To get the best of their power, to have their protection, they could only attain it through a trade of equals. Young Miss Long, I am Luo clan's steward, in charge of all matters concerning it. Please return the drawing. Zhuo Fan's smile was replaced by a cold stare. Long Kui looked in a daze. First at him, then at Luo Yunchang. Though his words rang true. Since when did a steward's power superseded his lord's? How is he the steward? By the look of things, the lady of Luo clan is unable to keep the steward in check. Sighing, Long Kui was very reluctant in giving the scroll back, evident by her slow movement. Such a pity. Mr. Zhuo Fan, your request is too high and I can't fulfill it. But I am willing to guarantee on our Veiled Dragon Pavilion's fame that this first-grade array won't go beyond 30,000. With the scroll in hand, Zhuo Fan rose from his seat and leaned closer to Long Kui, leaving her flabbergasted. Before she could say anything, he said, Sorry, it seems I thought too highly of the young miss. You truly don't understand. Does this place have any other appraiser? What? I do not understand? Long Kui's cheeks were tinted red as her heart swelled with anger. No item that passed her hands hadn't received a correct assessment. The fact she could point out the fake black jade, yet unable to explain why, was her talent. It was because of this that she rose to a top-rated appraiser. In short, she was an expert. Yet, here came Zhuo Fan mocking her talent, refuting her skill in appraising. It was worse than any physical attack, an insult to her dignity. Mr. Zhuo Fan, your eyes are not wrong, but it is best not to overreach. Long Kui showed a smile that went beyond just anger. All of them could hear the gnashing of her teeth. Yet Zhou only smiled. Is there any other appraiser here? Long Kui glared. Fine, just wait here. And she left. Luo Yunchang was worried about the anger Long Kui showed. Did we offend the Veiled Dragon Pavilion? Zhuo Fan shook his head with an unusual smile. Moments later, Long Kui appeared again with steady steps. But this time, an old man was at her side. Godai Longju? Luo Yunchang shouted in shock and turned to Zhuo Fan. He is the supervisor of the Veiled Dragon Pavilion in Windgaze City. The head appraiser. Godai Longju. Ah, it's Luo clan's young miss. Even from 100 steps, Longju's voice resounded clearly in their ears. I've met your father 20 years ago. He was full of metal then. I didn't expect for your clan to sell their treasure. Zhuo Fan's heart shivered as his brows knitted. This man's power was a cut above Kai Rong's, to the point not even Zhuo Fan could see through him. It wasn't that his eyesight was poor, or the fact that the old man hid his power. The difference between them was just too deep. I see. So Veiled Dragon Pavilion has such an expert, thought Zhuo Fan. Soon, Long Ju was supported by Long Kui and arrived before them. Luo Yunchang bowed. Grandpa Ju. The others were quick to follow. Yet Zhuo Fan just stood there. Long Ju sized him up with his only hazy eye. Are you Luo clan's steward? Yes. Alright, anyone's better than that old son. Long Ju shot a meaningful glance at them, then sat down. I heard you doubt little Kui's skill. Yes. Zhuo Fan didn't mince words, eliciting a snort from her and a roll of the eye. Ha ha ha. Little Kui might be new in this line of business, but her eyes are true. She must be more or less right with her assessment. But since you doubt her, this blind old man will take a look. Please. Zhuo Fan offered the scroll. Long Ju's smile vanished when he turned to its contents, staring intently at it. Uncle Ju, wasn't I right? Long Kui grinned and shouted. First grade array. 30,000 spirit stones. Long Ju kept staring at the drawing and only after a while did he speak with a solemn face. I never thought the Luo clan would hide such a thing. Kid, what do you think of 1.8 million spirit stones? What? They all went slack-jawed. Long Kui in particular. Never had she dreamed of the day the supervisor of Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Long Zhu, would utter such an astronomical number. Chapter 20. Ancient Array. Uncle Zhu. Long Kui watched Long Zhu wide-eyed, who instead watched the calm Zhuo Fan with his only eye. Zhuo Fan gazed back with a grin. Too low. WH. They all cried out in response. 1.8 million was an inconceivable wealth for the Luo clan. Luo Yunchang never dreamed of having such riches. Yet in the eyes of Zhuo Fan, it wasn't enough. Luo Yunchang and Captain Peng looked lost at him. If not for being born and raised in the Cloud Manor, they'd be thinking he was a noble descendant. His gaze traveled so far. Yet before others could recover from Zhuo Fan's attack, here came Long Zhu's reply. I understand, but this is the most this old man can give. Then I'll sell it as a favor for Grandpa Zhu at this price. Luo Yunchang chuckled embarrassedly as she wiped her brow. She never imagined a random drawing from Zhuo Fan would garner such an insane price that took all of Godai Long Zhu's wealth to pay for it. And by the looks of it, Long Zhu seemed to have set his sights on it. As such, it was better to earn his favor and be on good terms with Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Long Zhu showed a gratified smile. As expected, being extra careful as he rolled the drawing. But then, Zhuo Fan slapped the table. Since you can't go higher, the deal is off. Zhuo Fan. Luo Yunchang gave him a look, but he ignored her as he reached for the scroll. Squinting his eye, Long Zhu unleashed his awe-inspiring power. Kid, this old man wants it. Under such tremendous pressure, everyone recoiled, while Luo Yunchang and Captain Peng were overwhelmed from shock. Long Zhu was far above Kai Rong. Offending him would be tantamount to instant death. Yet, Zhuo Fan held his own under the man's power and even sneered. Grandpa Zhu, you're staining Veiled Dragon Pavilion's reputation. Kid, are you not afraid? Long Zhu kicked his power up a notch. Humph, aren't you? Blanking out for a second, Long Zhu took back his power and laughed. Ha ha ha, good kid, with you in charge of the Luo clan, they have nothing to worry about. The others were baffled. The two were a step away from jumping at each other's throat, and in the next instant all went up in smoke. Yet, no one knew the two moved the battle from brawn to mind. Long Zhu released his power to soften Zhuo Fan into selling him the drawing. Instead, Zhuo Fan pushed through the pressure and asked the old man about his honor. Veiled Dragon Pavilion was the #1 appraising house among the 7 noble houses. If this coercion leaked, then the damage would be unimaginable. Zhuo Fan bet on his fate and the clan's honor's place in Long Zhu's heart and won. With a deep look directed at Zhuo Fan, Long Zhu took the direct approach. Kid, I know you didn't come just to sell this drawing. What are your terms? Grinning, Zhuo Fan pushed the drawing before Long Zhu. 10 million is a fair offer. Let's start by having you pay us $1 million and the rest slowly. That's. Long Zhu eyed the scroll, then nodded after a while. Alright, until the debt is paid, the Veiled Dragon Pavilion shall owe Luo clan. Long Zhu took the scroll and left. Yet once he was gone, his voice lingered. Little Kui, give them 1 million spirit stones and walk them out. Yes. Long Kui was overwhelmed with different thoughts as she had never seen Long Zhu with such a sour expression. Turning back to Zhuo Fan, it was the first time she saw him sporting such a content smile. Next, she handed over 1 million spirit stones and saw them out. At the gate, the 2 guards were eager for them to show up and teach them a thing or two. But Long Kui's respectful attitude threw a wrench in their plans. And when they heard the deal they made included 1 million spirit stones, they were stunned. Never had they imagined a remote place like this could come with such an important deal. It became one of the top 3 deals in Veiled Dragon Pavilion's history. Damn, thank God we didn't do anything or disaster might have struck. A guard watched the 4 leave and wiped the sweat off his brow. The other just bobbed his head. Veiled Dragon Pavilion treated a rich clan with respect. If any of their men dared to offend the clan, the noble house would exact punishment. In the case of a clan with 1 million spirit stones, the guards' complete lack of courtesy would even end with their deaths. Thinking about it, they began to sweat buckets. On the other hand, Long Kui returned to Long Zhu, who was now looking at every detail of the first-grade array. Uncle Zhu, isn't it just a first-grade array? How is this worth 10 million? I have never even seen an item worth that much. Long Kui asked the moment she went through the door. Sighing, Long Ju gestured for her to come next to him. Little Kui, look closer. This might be the only one of its kind in the empire. This is. Long Kui's eyes flashed with shock. An ancient array. Long Ju showed how moved he was with every word. The ancient arrays are a lost art. Yet this has essentially proven their existence. It is priceless. And even 10 million is too low. What? It's that valuable? Nodding, Long Ju revealed a childish smile. As if he got his most cherished toy. But something occurred to him that soured his mood. Little Kui, tell Ah Jia to find 5 experts and watch over the Luo clan. They offended the Sun clan today. Why should we help them? Long Ju snorted. Haven't you been listening? We owe them. Long Kui began to recall. So this is what Zhuo Fan and Long Ju were haggling over. Yet, the veteran Uncle Ju was defeated in negotiations by a pup. Of course he was in a bad mood. Long Kui couldn't help but let out a giggle.